Last episode, I finally got round to automating brass and andesite alloy, I built a security truck that could moonlight as a prison van, and spent way more time than intended fixing train schedules. And between episodes, I've done some thinking, I've done some planning in my head, and I think I've got a bit of an idea. We're going to automate fish farming. So I could, of course, just do the classic AFK fish farm, but I don't really like going AFK in this world. I prefer to keep things running as smoothly as possible, and so I've done a little bit of digging and found something that should help us out. The result of that was adding one new mod that adds one new block, a bobber detector. And as much as I'd love to show you the ponder, it doesn't actually work, so that's going to make this a bit trickier. Oh look, it started raining, how unusual. But essentially what this does is detect when a fishing rod gets a bite within a certain radius. So I'm thinking we might be able to do some kind of a setup with deployers and fishing rods and so on, and basically automate the fishing. And as long as we load up enough fishing rods into the farm, we shouldn't ever have to worry about that either. The problem is I don't actually know how this thing works, or if it even is going to work for us. I've not played around with it at all as yet. So first up, we're going to need to run some experiments, and I'm going to need a few things for that. The first one, of course, being to make the detector itself, and I believe we needed a smart observer for that. And the only thing I'm missing, actually, is a fishing rod. And to be honest, string isn't actually something we're automating at the moment. I should probably think about that. We've got plenty enough for today's experiments, though. Let's just make a bunch of rods. We're going to be using those throughout the day and probably getting through a few. But we should now be able to make ourselves one of these, a bobber detector. What does this block look like? Alright, okay, so it actually shows you the range when you look at it. That's good. So it is quite a small area, but it should be more than enough for our needs. And it looks quite cool as well. Although there doesn't seem to be any safe way to break it. That's not good. I have a feeling we might be getting through a bunch of these. So I think the best idea is going to be to go down to the docks over here and just see if we can get this thing working. There we go. Here's a nice flat area by the water. This should do the trick. So I guess the first thing to do is just create an area that we're going to be detecting in, and I guess that's going to have to do. Does that mean that if I just do that... Oh yeah, there we go. Look, we see it's lit up. And if I go outside the area, it's not going to light up. And this thing should give off a redstone signal whenever it gets a bobber detection. So let's just quickly test that. Oh, here we go. Okay, cool. So it kind of flashed a few times. Let's double check that, because I wasn't expecting it to go off more than once. Okay, I think it might have been. So that time it just went off the once. So I guess I'm going to have to put a delay between pulling it in and casting. But first we need to figure out how that works. So let's stick a deployer on there. We'll give him a fishing rod. And I guess we're going to need to add some power, aren't we? So if I just do that and stick a water wheel on it. Do we have one? Yep, there we go. Okay, so it cast out the... Oh, I don't see anything. But it is lit up. And now he's just drawn in again. So what we need to do is to figure out how to basically activate this only when it gets a detection. And I believe the way that these work, if I was to give them some power, so for example, let's stick that behind, it should stop. Yeah. And if I remove that power, it will do another cycle. But as soon as it gets powered, I believe it finishes its current cycle and then stops. Okay, perfect. So that's what we're going to use to our advantage. So first up, let's just give this a unique signal of double cods. And I've got an idea. I'm just hoping it's going to work. So if we do that... Oh, no, wait a minute. That's not going to work. What we need to do is we actually need to power this and then turn the power off when it gets a signal. Right, okay. So if we do that, that will keep it in a permanently powered off state. Then if we put a redstone signal there, set to receive... And I guess we're going to need to give this thing a kickstart. Can we just do that? Right, okay. So in theory, this is set up now. When that gives off a signal, it should power this block, which should depower that, allowing this to actually draw its rod back in. Let's just hope it works. It's a bit weird we can't see a bobber, though. This is unnerving. At least the green indicator light tells us there is a bobber there, I suppose. Oh, and here comes some fish. Okay, so I think it might work if he was a bit faster. Because that took so long to go out there and actually pull the rod in, it didn't work. And also, we need a way to fire it again as well. So let's solve the speed problem first. Right, there we go. It's got a lot more power now. Look at that, much quicker. So let's see if it actually catches anything this time. Oh, here we go. Yes, look at that. It caught a fish. And it just kind of landed here. But now what we need to do is figure out how to power this off basically for long enough that it can do 2 cycles. And I think this is where a pulse extender could potentially come in handy. If we set it to 20 ticks, that means it will power off for a, well, power on, which will power off the torch for a whole second. So if we quickly test that. Okay, so that is enough time for it to do a cast and a reel in. Okay, brilliant. So if we just set this up again, we'll cast it out to give it a kickstart, and hopefully this time it'll work. Easy now, fella. Whoa! Ow! Right, I'm gonna have to deal with this dude. Get out of it. Didn't even give me a trident. Anyway, where were we? I didn't actually see what happened, but it doesn't look like it cast the rod out again. Is it maybe going too fast now? Oh, okay, so it is actually firing 3 times, so it's got too much time. Let's bring that down to, say, 15. Try that again. Okay, it seemed to work that time. So now we just need to solve item collection, and we can put a hopper here, of course, which will collect things that land in front of it, but as we just saw, that fish kind of landed there, which could potentially cause us some problems, but I wonder, can I stick, like, a copycat panel in front there and make it fall into this slot? And I'll just stick a hopper there for now. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, stuff's flying over the back as well. Okay, maybe I need to give this a bit of height as well. Let's try that. Okay, that seemed to work that time. And we definitely caught that. But the question is, what are we going to do with the experience? Do we just ignore that? I mean, it's not like I need it, but I don't think there's a way to just randomly pick up experience orbs, is there? If you know of a way, do let me know in the comments, but I think we're just going to have to ignore those for now. But on the plus side, it looks like this system will work, and then all we'd need to do is filter this to make sure it's always got a fishing rod, and we can easily just stick a hopper on top and jam a load more rods in there and kind of just let it do its thing. And we're getting treasure items as well, which is nice, but yeah, I think this is going to work. We can probably tidy it up a bit, and I'm gonna need to figure out how we're actually gonna put these in a building. I guess I should probably go and have a look at some pictures of fish farms, because I don't really know anything about fish. Just like everything else I build in this world, I know nothing about it. I really need to get out more. So I've done a bit of research, I've looked at pictures of fish farms, I even watched a video about a really fancy new type of fish farm, and you know what I discovered? Circles. Lots and lots of circles. There were circles in the ocean. In fact, most of them were actually out at sea, but occasionally there were indoor ones as well, and they were also made out of circles, which, as we all know, is the perfect shape for anything built in Minecraft. And although I could do it out at sea, I think I do want to do it on land. We've got a huge area here that, to be honest, at the moment, I don't really know what to do with, so I'm thinking maybe this is where we put our fish factory. We'll probably end up with another crane along this dock, as well as loads of sort of shipping containers and so on, maybe even a car park over here or something, but that leaves a really big area over here where we can put in a really big fish farm and fill it full of circles. And size-wise, the bobber detector has a 5x5 area of detection, so we just need to make sure that that's how much space, I guess, we have inside each circle. And I think that also maximizes treasure drops if it's like a 4x4 or a 5x5, something like that. Although, to be honest, I only really want the fish. We're probably going to burn everything else. So if we're going to build a giant fish factory, I should probably grab some blocks and do some planning. We need to figure out essentially a pick-up and drop-off area, although probably not drop-off, it would just be a pick-up area, I guess, for this factory. And we need to figure out how we're going to get a whole load of tanks in. Maybe like 6 or so. I think 6 feels like a good number. But let's go grab some blocks and mark some stuff out. By which I mean let's build an absolutely giant foundation like we normally do. I'm going to start just by placing a whole load of blocks down here, I guess. Try and figure out a depth for the building. So maybe something about that sort of size, potentially. And I do want to have an area over here where we're actually sorting everything out. And this, of course, will be where we pick up the fish as well to take them off elsewhere. But to really work out the size of this thing, I should probably work out how big the tanks are going to be. And I'll just use normal stone, I think, for marking out the tanks. So we need to make sure that there's a 5x5 space in the center of every tank. So we're probably going to have to go something like this. And then that will leave a 5x5 area perfectly in the center. And we can mess around with these bits to actually make it a little bit more round, but I guess that's probably the size we're going to need. Then we're going to want some kind of a walkway in the middle, then we'll have the second tank, and then we're going to need more space on this side. So I guess the building's actually going to be a little bit wider than this. So maybe out to about here or so. And then that gives us a bit of space around each side of the tank, and it means we can have some platform before we actually get to the build. I think this could work. Let's get a platform in. And with that, I think I've got a platform down that I'm happy with. I've also sectioned off a bit out the front. The road's going to come up this way here. It's just going to go straight in. And we've got a couple of sort of delivery pickup bays here as well. So in my head, I'm kind of seeing this as two buildings. One over here that's going to have all of these sort of delivery and collection bits. And then the other one's going to, well, I suppose it's still going to be one building because it will be attached. But the other section's going to sort of come out here. And then inside here, of course, is where we'll have all the fish farms. And hopefully that's enough space, but we can always expand the platform if we need to, I guess. I'm not going to bother texturing the platform yet, though, because there's a very high chance I'm going to end up swapping out at least a good portion of the floor, probably in the fish farm area. So we'll just do that at the end. For now, I'm going to do a bit of resource gathering. I think I know what kind of a pallet I want to use for this, but I don't have everything I need. I need to get a bunch of warped wood because I want to do a roof color similar to this. And I'm also going to need a reasonable amount of wool, and I don't think I've actually got that much, to be honest. Let's have a look. No, not really. I think I'm going to want to use light grey wool here. I've got a bit of an idea for underneath the fish tanks. But I wonder, can you actually wash wool? Is there a way to turn it back to white? Aha, yes, we can literally wash all the different colors and just get white wool. So I think that's exactly what we're going to do for now, because I don't have a sheep farm yet. I know, coming up on 3,500 days and no sheep farm, it's fine. I can't believe how many of the basics we're still missing, to be honest, but because I'm theming everything, it just takes a bit longer to do stuff, I guess. I mean, I don't even have a proper farming area to even put a sheep farm in yet. Although that probably is something we should consider soon if we do actually want to fully automate our food properly. That's given us 421 white wool, which once we get dyed up to grey, hopefully that's going to be enough, but I guess we'll find out later. But now I need to try and get hold of some warped wood, and I don't know how much we've got. We've probably still got some left over. We've got loads of the warped warp block. They'll probably come in handy as well, but where's the wood? Over here. Okay, we've actually got more than I thought. Maybe we'll get away with this after all. And now that we're swimming in andesite alloy as well, I mean, look, we've got over 15,000 in there. There's something else I want to try. And what I want to do is to make some of this, the andesite sheet metal, which means I need to squish lots and lots of andesite. But I think these look pretty good and should work nicely for the smaller building. And for the bigger part of the building that's going to contain the fish, I think maybe we'll steer away from using brick blocks and granite and things like that, which was my initial inclination, but we're actually going to go for these instead, to try these brick bonded oak planks. This will hopefully mean we end up with something a little bit lighter down on the docks. Now then, let's just mark out some buildings and see how we get on. And I think that size is going to work nicely for us. We've got plenty of space for the 6 tanks. We've got space around them so we can put in some walkways, and we've got space behind them so we can put in the fishing mechanisms. We've also got the second building over here where we'll store and sort everything, and I think color-wise, hopefully this will work, but I guess we won't know till we build up the walls a little bit more. So let's stick on some music and get this done. For a basic shape, I don't think that's looking too bad. It was looking a little bit flat on the top here, so I've added an acacia block and extended the roof up a little bit as well, because I think I'm actually going to have these tanks kind of sticking up from the floor as opposed to sunk in the floor. Because most of the images I looked at of indoor fish farms, they all seem to be sort of above the ground with catwalks, so that's what we're going to do. So it might end up looking a bit like a Bond villain's lair, but I'm sure that's fine. Next up, I think I'm going to get a roof in. I might actually stick another bit out the front here as well and just sort of have that as like the entrance-y, office-y type bit, the reception, I guess. And of course, I need to sort out the roof, probably get a bit of an overhang over the front here, and just generally make the building look a little bit more complete. toilet still needs some detailing and some texturing, and of course I need to sort out all of the outside, but I'm quite pleased with that, and I think that's going to work quite nicely. And I was a bit concerned it was going to look a bit too big, but when you actually put it next to everything else and see it in situ, I think it's absolutely fine, to be honest. But we'll sort out the roof and the road out here later, and of course get some texturing in. For now, I want to see if I can get the inside done. I do want to try and get these fishing things working. And while I think of it, there was actually one other mod that I added, which is mega torches. And basically these just mean that I can stick one down and nothing will spawn within 64 blocks, which has been fantastic just to put a couple under the dock here because this place is now clear all the time. One other thing I need to do though is basically just go around the areas I've already built in and where I'm keeping the chunks loaded and put these down, because where I'm keeping those chunks loaded up all the time, it's also keeping any mobs that are sort of permanently loaded or anything there as well. And I'm hoping dumping some of these torches down might give me a slight performance boost, because I don't know if you've noticed, but the last couple of videos there have been occasional sort of framey lag spikes. Nothing major, but definitely noticeable every now and then. And if placing a few of these torches down just to stop mob spawns is going to help that, then I'm going to do that. I also need to use less conveyor belts. So we might have to revisit a couple of these contraptions at some point and just swap out the belts for something else, but we'll ignore that for now and see how we get on. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. I need to build some big tanks in here. The question is, what do I want to build them out of? I think it's going to make sense to make them look metallic, so we're going to see what the iron blocks can do. And I think we have to put these in this table, the alchemy one, right? Yep, there we go. So the sheet iron blocks could work quite nicely. Or polished iron blocks, maybe? Plated iron block? Let's just have a look at a few of these different ones and see what we think. So that's the sheet iron. That's the polished iron. I don't like those. And that's the plated iron, which looks almost identical to the polished. So you know what? I think we're going to go with these, the sheet iron blocks. So with these tanks, we've got a couple of options of how we can make them look round. We could play around with some of the frame slopes, but then to be honest, I think they're going to end up looking more hexagon than round. Although to be honest, it doesn't look too bad. And can I flood these blocks? Because if I can, yes, look at that. Okay, so this could potentially actually work. The other option is to maybe try and use these stairs, so to do something potentially like that. But yeah, that definitely looks better, doesn't it? That's that solved then. Let's just build up this first tank, and I think once we've got one working, we can then duplicate it elsewhere. I don't want to build up all the tanks only to find that we can't actually get a contraption here. Yep, I think these pools are going to work quite well. Now to see if we can actually hook up everything that we tried earlier. The first part of that is to get the bobber detector in, and look at that, perfect. We can see from the white box there that it's perfectly contained the tank. So if we stick a deployer there, then we'll use chutes to catch everything and put it in there. Copycat panels in the front. We'll figure out how they're actually going to look later. For now, we just want to make sure that we're actually catching everything. We'll stick an upgraded drawer on top of a chute, which we'll absolutely pack full of fishing rods once we figure out how we're going to get all the string. But now we need to put the fancy bit in the bottom here. I think I may have actually gone and done something clever. Shocking, I know. But I have built up the system we had before, which is basically the redstone signal going into a pulse extender, which extends it for 18 ticks, which allows this to draw itself in and then recast. So that's the same setup we had on the beach, but I did notice a slight problem with the one we had on the beach, and that was that occasionally it would stop for some reason, as if it kind of had a failed cast or something. I don't really know what was causing it, but it was very sporadic and I couldn't really figure it out. So what I've done instead is put in basically like a dead man's switch, so to speak. So if this doesn't get powered every 4 minutes, so essentially if this takes 4 minutes and hasn't caught anything, it means it hasn't cast out properly. That means this would run out, which would unpower this redstone, which would power the redstone torch, which will just power this repeater, which then loops back round into the target block, depowering that just for 1 session instead of 2 like this one does, and then that will recast the rods. And this works because of this pulse extender here. So an interesting thing about pulse extenders is that obviously if I was to do that, it's going to extend the pulse for 5 seconds, and then it's going to stop. If, however, I give it more power again, it kind of resets the countdown, and that's what's happening here. So this 4-minute countdown is getting reset every time the bobber is actually detected. And hopefully that's going to prevent it from just randomly stopping every now and then like the one on the beach. So this is all well and good. The only thing we're not doing is storing anything. So I should probably figure out how I'm going to do that. And I think it makes sense just to feed it directly into a storage drawer controller and stick everything into drawers for now. And then we can figure out what to do with it. In fact, what's probably going to make more sense is to actually feed it all into a vault. Because as well as these stackable things, such as the fish, we're also going to get a whole bunch of non-stackable items. And for now, we'll just stick them all in here. And an easy way to do that is just going to be to grab some item drains, limiting our use of belts, and just a couple of funnels. Then all we need to do is basically hook up these drawers underneath into another slave controller, which we'll stick here. And as a refresher on drawer controller systems, they need a few things in order to work, which is basically a drawer controller. This is actually the sort of main brains of a system. You only need one of these in any system. You then have drawers, which is what you store stuff in. And whenever you click on one of these, you can put stuff into a drawer. But that's where the drawer controller slaves come in as well. If ever you want to feed something into a system via hoppers or chutes or whatever, this is what you want to be using. So this is one system at the moment. And then to extend that system further, we just use spruce trims. So think of these as just basically hoppers. But the good news is they're instant. So if, for example, I was to dedicate this box to shafts, if I go over here and click, straight away the shafts are going to go in there, which would have been a much better example if I had the quantities on there. And that's where these keys come in. We have a drawer key, which locks it, so even if there's no items in there, it will remember that that's the only item that lives there. And we have the quantify key, which will show you how much is actually on a box. And if you use this on a drawer controller, it will affect every drawer in the system, so that will either lock or unlock everything that you've got attached. Basically, I've had quite a few people asking me about the drawer systems lately in the comments, so I figured I'd do a quick run through for you. Hopefully that helps. So far in this system, all we have are 2 drawer controller slaves and 1 trim. So let's quickly get these linked together. We'll go underneath with the spruce trim, bring that across. We'll go round the power, and we just need to link it up over to here. So at the moment, because our system only consists of drawer controller slaves and trims, you can see things aren't actually going into the system. And that's because we still need to add, firstly, a drawer controller. So I'm going to put this over here. And secondly, we need somewhere for those bits to actually go before they get pulled out of the system again. And that's where a drawer like this comes in. And now you can see everything's working. So now anything he fishes up will go directly into this vault. And the good thing is we can just extend that and connect those drawers underground to the other tanks as well. But now what I need to do is figure out how I'm going to hide it. And I'm thinking these copycat panels, we can literally just stick some hewn spruce wood in them, and we can essentially create a fake wall that goes all across. And that's going to hide pretty much everything, which is good because it's ugly, but I am going to leave this bit here exposed. This is just my sort of manual jump start button. You never know, we might need it. Yeah, I think that's going to work for a back wall. Now let's just do this another 5 times, I guess. Short while later, and I've got all 6 tanks working. They're all doing their fishing thing, as you can tell by the experience that's floating around. And I've managed to get everything hidden behind these walls, so from down here, you can't see any of the workings behind, apart from this bit at the top here. But what I need to do is add a walkway up here. And I really want to sort out this floor as well. I mean, we do of course need to actually sort out all the things that we're collecting from the fishing, but that can wait. For now, I just want to tidy this up. I mean, it's looking cool with the tanks, but we can definitely make it look better. First off, I dug some channels and then used industrial iron catwalks to create a drain effect around the edge of the tubs, then filled in the main walkway with grey concrete, patched with a few tiled areas. I used some textured grey wool underneath the tanks just to give them a slightly different look, then used McCaw's bridges to add walkways that go around all of the tanks and up into the higher levels. I then added a few lights, and to be honest, I'm not really sold on the lights. They look a little bit much, don't they? But I'll leave them for now. We've got other things we need to accomplish. But the good news is the fishing has been happening in the background the whole time, and although I'm almost out of rods, we've got through almost 50 already. So I'm definitely going to need a string farm of some kind. But between the cod and the salmon, we've got over 2,000 fish, and to be honest, I have no idea what else is in there, because of course there's going to be books and treasure loot and leather and all sorts. So that's what we need to do now. I'm going to build some kind of sorting system here, just so we can get just the fish over here ready for pickup, and everything else, I don't really know what I'm going to do with that, but I guess I'm about to figure that out. And a few minutes later, I've got a system installed over here that now means we are separating the cod and the salmon via this tunnel here, and everything else either goes into the drawers or goes on fire. I have decided I may as well keep a box of the rest of these, though. I'm not going to transport them anywhere else. I'm just going to leave them here because they're quite random resources that we probably won't really need very often, if at all. Apart from the string, but we only had about 20 of that, so I've already turned it into rods. And all the rods that are coming through, I decided just to burn them. Because they're damaged, they won't actually go in the drawer up there and can't really get fed into these, so I figured I may as well just leave them to burn. So the last thing to do on the inside here is just sort out the floor here, maybe get some stacks of fish barrels and things like that scattered around, just make it look a little bit more fishy. And speaking of making it look a little bit more fishy, I don't like how empty these pools are. And I'm pretty sure just as I said that, a lobster appeared. What in the world? Where did you come from? Do they spawn here? Well, there doesn't seem to be lobsters anywhere else. One thing I have noticed, though, is that we're only actually getting junk items in here and not treasure items. But that shouldn't be happening because we have actually got enough space here. So what I'm thinking is the bobber might actually be landing right up against this edge somewhere here, and that means it doesn't have the space around it to get treasure items. But I think there's something sneaky we can do to solve that issue, because it would be nice to be getting, like, name tags and saddles and things like that. You know, things that are a bit more useful. And I think we can solve this just with a little bit of glass. And my plan is just to literally put a piece of glass here above the pool, and I'm hoping that when it casts out, it's going to hit that and drop down, and then that's a better place for it to sort of land and hopefully get some treasure. What I need to do, though, is watch this guy and actually see where the bobber is. We can only really tell when a fish comes in because we can see where it goes for the bites. Okay, so that was actually still back here, which means I probably need to have this a block lower and just have it on the surface like that. Oh. Yep, there we go. That was a much better place. So let's just do that on the other ones as well. We just need a block there. I've got all the glass in place. I've put out the fire down here just so we can see what comes in. And, well, hopefully we'll get something that's a bit more treasury. Let's just watch it for a while and see what goes past. Well, I'm still not getting any treasure loot, but that's fine. I'm not too bothered. We mainly need this for the fish anyway. But now all that's left to do in here is to sort out the floor, get some texture on, maybe get some barrels of fish laying around, and just sort of busy the place up a little bit. And that also includes in these pools, because in all the pictures we looked at, well, these were round with fish. So I think we're going to have to go do some tactical fishing and get these tanks filled up a bit. There we go, much better. So we've got a pool of salmon, we've got a pool of lobster. I don't actually know if they'll stay or not. They might despawn, but who knows? Got more salmon, got some tiny cod over here, some giant catfish, and a couple of natural lobsters, which probably means they're not going to be here very long. Although he's a yellow one. If I put him in a bucket and then put him over here, will he stay? And back over here, we've got even more cod. So it's nice to see some life in these pools. Now to make everything look nice. And a short while later, I think that's pretty much all it needs. I've just textured up the floor. I've roughed up a few areas in some patches, sort of around where the main movement is. And I've tried to make it look like this bit here's got a bit sort of water damaged over time as well. Not too sure that works, but at least it mixes it up. And besides that, we've just got some fish barrels around, just a couple of small stacks of crates. I didn't want to fill this area here because, well, the workmen are going to need areas to actually work and move stuff around. It's not as if it's a full-on storage warehouse after all. But I think interior-wise, this place is done. Now we just need to sort the outside. And I'd say that's looking fairly sorted, at least for now. I haven't touched anything on the outside of the fence because I don't really know what we're going to be doing with these areas yet. But inside the walls, I have sorted out the road here, and I've also sort of added in a couple of garage doors. So, well, this one isn't being used, so I figured we might as well shutter it off. But I think that just helps give it a little bit of character over in this corner. And I've also done all of the texturing on the building. So I used more of these sort of, what is it, mixed acacia log, that's it, because it goes really well with the firewood acacia log. I think they just work really well, so I've kind of tried to make it look a bit darker at the top and under the windowsills and so on. But I think that works quite nicely. And then on the roof, we've just got lots of fans of varying sizes. And with these big fans, I did play around with a few different colours for them, but to be honest, the spruce ones just kind of fit best. It's a shame there's not a metallic looking plank of some kind. And lastly, I've also connected up the main road here. Not that it actually needs to go anywhere yet, because I don't know what we're going to be doing with this fish. That's something we'll have to solve on the next episode. But good news! For those of you that are YouTube members and patrons, there will be a world download going out alongside this episode. I think it's long overdue. I'm sure you'd agree, because the last download, I don't think it had any of this area. So you're going to have whole new areas to explore, and hopefully you can give me some ideas on what we can do with the rest of this space as well when you see it. It's a lot bigger than it looks on the video. And I'm also still yet to do the interior in here, so this won't be done on the world download. So if you do grab that and want to have a little go at it yourselves and send me some pictures, if we get some good ones through, then we may well just get those in the world as a special nod to your amazing work. But sadly, that is all we've got time for today. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. Where have all my fish gone?